So as you guys know, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez has sort of been in the forefront in the beginning when it came to primarying corporate Democrats and incumbents. Now, obviously, she was the first one to really unseat anyone, and so she kind of started the movement altogether in terms of successfully doing it. She kind of spent some time trying to help primary challengers. So, but she got a lot of backlash for it, and so she started to try and figure out whether or not some of the primary challenges were worth it and her endorsements were worth it. And so, as time went on, I think it became more and more difficult for her to actually endorse a lot of the primary challengers because it makes it awkward to work with the colleagues, and sometimes they don't really have a shot. But as you guys know, Nancy Pelosi and Beto O'Rourke both endorsed Joe Kennedy, who is challenging Ed Markey. And AOC sent out a tweet saying, "Ever notice how primary challenges from progressives are derided as, quote, divisive and bad for the party? Yet folks are oddly silent about how the center/conservative wing of the party just spent millions trying to unseat me, Ilhan, Rashida, and Ed Markey? Funny how that works." And so there's really one person that this is a shot at, okay? Now, it is true that this is sort of a critique of the sort of system as a whole or the atmosphere as a whole, but really there's a main person that this is sort of part of a Cold War with, and this is really a Cold War with Nancy Pelosi. Okay, there's been some shots fired, there's even been some sort of non-Cold War shots fired from Nancy Pelosi, but after Nancy Pelosi had endorsed Ed Markey, AOC came out and endorsed Alex Morse in his race against Richard Neal, which he was unable to unseat. But it was very clear that it was kind of a tit-for-tat move, and she had expressed her dismay and her, disgust at the move by Nancy Pelosi because she viewed it as to being hypocritical because all the progressive organizations were being blacklisted by the DCCC. AOC was saying, hey, Ilhan Omar's primary challenger is working with Republican groups. Why is the DCCC not blacklisting him? What's going on here? Why are they not working with their blacklist? Why are they not, actually putting that into action? She's saying it's basically selective choice that they're doing. And it's hard to disagree with her. It's hard to say that she's wrong considering what has happened. And so, Ed Markey, it definitely is a big deal that Nancy Pelosi had decided to endorse Joe Kennedy over Ed Markey. I believe Chuck Schumer had endorsed Ed Markey. Because he's, sitting senator. And so you have to understand how taboo it is to support the challenger of an incumbent Democrat. That's actually a pretty big deal, and it really means a lot, especially if you're like a Nancy Pelosi. And I think a lot of that probably came down to the Kennedy name. Markey was attacking, the Kennedy family a lot. How they're paying money for Joe Kennedy's campaign to attack Markey. So I think a lot of that came down to that. But AOC once again calling out the Democratic Party, and I think this is probably going to move her more leftward in terms of her primary challenges, and so I think that Nancy Pelosi has sort of woken up a beast, I guess, in AOC, so we'll see kind of how that goes in the future, but definitely seems to be the case that, this war between Nancy Pelosi and AOC is not ending anytime soon.